Allman in the morning. Common Sense Radio.
Yes, it is. And good morning. And really privileged to have Senator Roy Blunt in the studio here in Columbia. And Senator Blunt, you know what? It's Denise's birthday today.
Denise, happy birthday.
Thank you so much, Senator.
It'd be better to be in the studio if we were there seeing you, but I had to track Jamie down. He's traveling all over the state, and I had to find him right here in Columbia, Missouri.
Well, I hope to see you in studio soon.
It was a fun time last night at the, what do they call it, Cattlemen's Association? It was pretty cool.
It was. Cattlemen's Association. We had a great event with, all of the ag groups are helping. They understand how important a part of the future to our economy is what's going to happen in food and agriculture. And frankly, we all ought to be thinking about the great advantage we have there. World food demand is going to increase. It's going to double, frankly, in 35 or 40 years, the biggest area of commerce in the world. Nobody in the world is better positioned to take advantage of that than the United States, and nobody in the United States is in a better place to take advantage of that than we are. And it's not just production agriculture. It's everything that drives an economy that focuses on growing things and making things and producing things. And that economy is always better for the middle of the country. We have a workforce that responds to that. We have a distribution and system that's perfect for that. And whenever you're talking about a production-based economy, where we live benefits if we get back to that. And I think people want to make things in America again. They just need a utility bill they can pay and a transportation system that works, and then they take advantage of the ability to look at our great workforce. And we need to be focused on better jobs. One of the great tragedies of the Obama administration is this constant discussion of what the world should look like 25 years from now, instead of what do we need to be doing so people have better jobs next month and next year.
All right. Well, I really am also it was great to hear you talk about the need to release companies from regulatory suffocation, which has been one of the hallmarks of your career anyway. I talked a while back about this already, about how had people actually listened to you and Jim Talent, we would never have had Obamacare because you had all the fixes that were required to reduce the health costs. But let's go on to regulation, because that's an important component. And you say you had a conversation with Donald Trump about this as well. Explain that.
Well, we did. One of the bills that I've introduced for years in the last couple of Congresses with Rand Paul is something called the REINS Act, putting the reins on government. The REINS Act would require me to vote on every regulation that had any economic consequence. And talking about that with Donald Trump in front of 20 other senators, he said, I'll sign that bill. And I think that's looking at shaking up the government in the fight we've been in. And interestingly, here's a place where, while I've been in the Senate for 6 years, I've been the one advocating change all the time. The way to change the country is to keep me in the Senate, have a Trump-Pence administration that will work with us to get these regulators under control. I think a lot of presidents, Jamie, would think, well, wait a minute, if I sign that bill, that would reduce the power of the administration and increase and build the power of the Congress. But I think Donald Trump would look at that and think these regulators are out of control. If somebody had to go home and explain to the people they work for why your utility bill should double, as it would in our state under the administration's power rule, in about 10 or 12 years, our utility bills will double. Nobody would want to do that. Nobody would want to go home and explain why your utility bill would go up 30% in 10 years. The response from the Congress would be, go back and work on this some more. We are not going to move forward with this. There has to be a better way to do this than the way you're proposing, because what you're proposing hurts families, hurts job opportunities, hurts our economy. You need to come back with another proposal, because this one's not going to pass.
Right. And you've been a hugely valued member of the Senate. I mean, there are people there who really don't work very hard, and you are one of them. I explained to people that you were one of these guys who you got elected to the U.S. Senate, and you were in our studios 3 months later. 6 months later, 1 year later. You weren't one of those guys who showed up right before the election. I don't know how many times we've had you in the studio where you come, give us updates on what you're doing. So, I mean, honestly, I think it's one of those things that if we're going to have a Trump administration, and even if, God forbid, we have a Hillary administration, we're going to in the U.S.
Well, I think the Supreme Court critically important, and the people that determine who gets on the court are the president who nominates and the Senate who confirms. Just a day before yesterday, Harry Reid said, if we get in control of the Senate and we have a Democrat president, we're going to go to the 51 votes to confirm senators, which would mean the youngest, most liberal senators that 51 Democrats would vote for,
Right.
Not the 60 vote threshold that Republicans would retain in that kind of an administration where a President Clinton is making those nominations. And whoever does this, this moment's not going to come around for 25 or 30 years.
Right on.
We're going to define the court for a generation in the next 4 years, and voters ought to be thinking about that when they cast their Senate ballot and their presidential ballot. If they care about the Second Amendment, if they care about freedom of religion, if they care about freedom of speech, that ought to be a top-of-the-line issue as you think about who you're voting for president and who you're voting for the Senate.
Senator Blunt, thank you so much, and thanks for your having the courage, unlike a lot of Republicans, for standing up for the top of the ticket. It's been great. Great to see you last night. Great to see you this morning. Thank you. That's Senator Roy Blunt.